Hello. Today I am bringing you a chart for Aileen Cannon. And Aileen Cannon is a federal judge who's in her 40s. I believe she's about 43 years old. And she is presiding over a case of Washington, D.C., Mar-a-Lago confidential documents that were found in the home of Donald Trump. Now, the reason I'm bringing you this chart today is that I have come across in researching this particular subject some interesting details. And you can see here I have a chart and I have it in a karmic astrology application. So, what you're seeing with the various planetary bodies, there's a little extra here. And I did it this way because I want to see the karmic aspects of all of this. And I get some really interesting information. Her moon at this time in Capricorn, which is in detriments. Okay. And it is peregrine, which means it's operating on its own. It's not following any rules. It does what it wants. And you can see that it's in the eighth house, where this is going to speak about wounding. She has Neptune in Sagittarius, where her faith, her belief in what she's doing is in her house of wounding. So the moon is operating under some really cold and it's melancholic. It's cold, it's uncomfortable. But there's also something else that's going on with this moon that's interesting to me. The phase of her moon is what we refer to, and I'm looking for my materials, is the Psalmic, which means at the very end of its cycle, which means it's not really, it's kind of done everything it can do. It offers no more, and it's in the house of wounding. So I'm just going to continue to build this story to you. Now, her ascendant, which is largely how we see her, is this sweet little gardening lady who came from a foreign land, from Colombia. And for the most part, seems rather unthreatening. But there's a little catch here, and that would be this right here. What is this? This is Palace. This is going to be kind of Martian, Uranian. It's going to be difficult where her wisdom is coming, maybe not from so much areas you would think. It's coming from a hidden enemy, somebody who is able to gain access to her. As you can see, this would be her house of service, how she goes about being of service. You can see that it's done in a Libran sort of way, and which means that you would think a judge, fair and balanced, and she provides this service. And up here, where she has her sun, and I want to say that this is a solar, not a literal, because we do not have her birth time. But the the way the planets lay out will be the same. What will change is which houses and what degree. So that I just want to mention that that's important actually to you, the viewer. But I'm pretty comfortable actually. She was either born at noon or 11 or 12:30. I would say in that time frame. She was born somewhere in here in the 10th house. And the reason being is for her to be a judge she's in the right house. This is the house of Duck, okay, in Aquarius, which would mean that she acts more as a humanitarian in her job. But that's a little bit of a problem because her job isn't to be a humanitarian. It's Jupiter to dispense justice. But you'll notice right here where this Pluto in her house of surface is opposing Alice. So a lot of energy here where this is going to be about wisdom and justice, okay, in a sense. And this is going to be about pouring the water from one cup to the other in a dynamic where she is providing supportive services to us, the people. And here is where she's pouring the water as the Aquarian. But you can see that this is trining right up to the midheaven in this way. And so every bit of her energy in this sense is opposing this palace wisdom where she's bringing in the details and she's transmuting or changing how the courts operate. And it's really interesting because in this sense, this here planet, or not planet, but asteroid is Juno, where this is how we kind of find the archetype of the queen in the chart. And in her case, she's the queen of service. The queen of service to whom? And it begs to bear, who is she to Trump, or who is Trump to her? And I myself have been alive 63 years, and I have never seen judicial bodies in this sense favoring one person over the masses. And so I'm a little confused by it. I'm wondering, who is then Trump in relation to this story? And who is Aileen Cannon? Well, is our previous, the 45th president, and he appointed her. But even there, a lot of federal judges were appointed during Trump's tenure as the sitting president, but it doesn't mean that they favored him in everything he said. And there's plenty of examples of that. There are presidents that, or excuse me, there were issues of him losing the presidency and him saying something like 60 different times that these were issues that should bring this back to the Supreme Court, or that should be overturned, or I won, or whatever the story was. I mean, there was a lot of different ways that it was being said. But the point was, it was to say, I won, and basically the person, the 46th president, which is Biden, was an illegitimate president. This is his story pretty well from 2016 on, if you listen to his thread. So at some point, you have to ask yourself, really, why is this happening? But I have some information for you that's rather fascinating. So you can look right here at the South Node. And the South Node is going to be where we come from, who we were in the past or past life. Now, that's not altogether true, because we're also going to see past lives in two of the moon's most recent aspects. And the moon separating from Mercury, and that was a sextile, was one of the most recent separations as we look at it from a point of view of understanding past life energy. So you're going to go and look here, and you can see that there's a Mercury really almost to the 11th house of groups, but not quite. But you have this little bit of relationship here between Mars and Mercury and the Sun. You get this stellium. But could it be that this being Aileen Cannon and this being somebody important to her, Trump, in a past life energy? Very possibly, because the question is, why is she protecting Trump? Why is she delaying the court issues? What's happening here, really? Okay, so that's one of the separating aspects. And then you have another one where, interestingly, it also has a separating aspect in Capricorn, where it went over the cusp. So a lot of limitations in the house of wounding, as if something here created her reasoning for being here and protecting Trump. And you can see that this is just really nicely sextiling over. And you can see her Saturn, where it has some things to say. And this is in mutual reception, her Saturn and her Venus, where she comes over from a foreign place and likely had an agreement, whether it's karmic or otherwise. With whom? Trump. Why? Well, again, let's go back to this South Node in Aquarius, where it is very possible that she, conjunct her son, had some relationship to his power and access previously. Has Trump been a leader previously? I believe so. In fact, I've done a video on it, and I believe that he is reincarnated and very likely Mussolini, or in that range of characters that went on in Europe and created such a difficult time for others. Now, I do want to mention that the Arabic parts for this are very interesting. Her moon shows an opposition, which, if you look, her opposition would then be in the second house. And that would go back to this Geminian, or this previous energy that we know in a past life energy was a part of it. Well, it's opposing. Okay. And what does that mean exactly? I think that this situation that she's finding herself in currently could lead her to being imprisoned. Now, I say that because Mercury, if and you can see it is not functioning in a healthy sense, it's peregrine, it's in its house of detriment, and it's also in fall, which it's at its most difficult point. And this is somebody we have representing and handling a case as important as espionage and treason and classified documents. Now, there's no way ever that it's appropriate for a past president to not return documents that belong to the people of the United States. And I have a lot of thoughts on why he was carting these documents around. And one of them being that it's really easy for him to cart these documents around, because in doing so, what he gains is a legitimacy as a president, which he is not the president. And so you might note that he's been giving meetings as if he is still the president. He's been acting, having meetings in front of podiums as if he's the president. I'm surprised he hasn't put on his plane, Trump, the president of the United States for life, because that's the only thing left is the one last advertisement that maybe we all just don't get it. So we need to start figuring this stuff out. So, but you can see right here now, again, there's this connection to the Arabic parts where you can see that if you go here to this Pisces, it's conjunct Pisces right now. Catastrophe. It's catastrophe for her, really. If she doesn't see this, I feel bad for her. And what kind of catastrophe is happening? Marriage of sorts. So even the Arabic parts refers back to this as if it's a marriage. And Venus, you see this connection here. This Venus maybe from a past life, because 26 degrees, this is 25 degrees, really no aspect, but a hint of something where this is about husbandry. This is about something she has access to from a past. Mars, it's about the goods. It's about the man. And it's conjuncting in a sense where he's also the merchandise. and I'm doing this according to Arabic parts. And basically, the outcome is going to be that she's going to inherit what she has coming, which if I were her, I would watch this video and maybe recuse myself from the case because in every sense now what's coming is moon, her house of damage. It's applying to, the moon is applying to right now, her queenliness, which in every way, if I were her, I would rather be dethroned. And perhaps that's something even she might be considering. The moon is additionally applying to Saturn. Now, what is that going to do? I think that could be where Jack Smith comes in with his paperwork and goes to the courts, the justice, right here, justice, and this is on the cusp of the sixth house, and says, hey, I need help and service. I need for you to look at this situation where we haven't been moving at all. And I may have a justice here that doesn't maybe understand the case well enough to continue to manage the situation. She seems to be limited in her skills, her creativity. So I would like her to be removed from the case. And I think there's a very high potential that she may be removed. But I'm going to tell you now what it is I'm concerned about. There is every possibility. Moon square Jupiter in the applying sense. That something happens, that somebody during all of this delay and, oh, he's a victim and it's grievance based and so on and so forth, fails to understand that there's some bigger agreements at play here. And that at no time is 45 a victim, nor is Aileen Cannon. They are actors in a play making choices just like you and me. And how consciously they're making these decisions really isn't of consequence. But you can see this Saturn is going right up to her midheaven. Her justice career is kind of going up to the midheaven and saying there's some serious limitations in her judging in the future. And likely that will occur because she's viewed as incompetent. Because you can see all of this opposition, right? Everything. She's coming in and she's saying, no, you're not touching him. It is my job to keep this case underwater. It is my job, North Node, to creatively mess with this case and keep you from ever seeing it. This is in the house below the earth. So her intention is to bury this case, literally bury it. This is the Nadar underground. He's looking to create a burial of this case. And this is her whole life's mission. And I want to say that in this sense, I'm really sad for her because really, in a way, she's throwing away her career right now. And there's some evidence of this by the fact that all of her clerks quit. That is unheard of. Why did her clerks quit? Likely because she just not doing her job and them not feeling useful. And you can see another way we're going to look for past lives versus present energy. This is a repeat pattern. She's protected Trump before for reasons unknown to me, other than he might be somebody that in a spousal sense is important to her, in a familial sense is important to her. She throws her career in jurisprudence away for Trump, for the glory of this moment. And you can see she has a choice. She really does have a choice. She could reach in and say, well, it isn't something I choose to care. I don't care to balance this anymore. I just want to step aside. And so, if I were her, I would want maybe to go ahead and step out of the whole situation. And you can see that in this case, where she's got this South Node in Aquarius, where she's very much been humanitarian in the past, somebody who's, but in a humanitarian sense, I think she has a hard time in this way where the only planet that's where you've got a cold moon, okay, and it's balsamic and it's at the end of its phase and it's getting ready to roll over into a new phase altogether again with something brand new. So this is finishing up unfinished business on every level because she spiritually believes that she's right from a place of a wounded soul. And how many of us decide through our wounding what we know is right? And I can tell you, I've done it. And what I found was that, oh my goodness, everything I thought I was and understood from my house of wounding only recently became very clear to me. And then I was really sad because I recognized how powerful the house of wounding really is. So I don't want you to take the house of wounding story lightly. We call it the house of sex, death, rock and roll. And I actually want to say that that's not exactly true. The house of courtship and life and love is actually your fifth house. The eighth house is death, rebirth, things from the depths, but not necessarily this sex place. It's not exactly right. So just to kind of separate your thinking just ever so slightly. It's not that it's totally wrong, but it isn't the place for it. Where we develop our sexual appetite is actually in the fifth house, where we court and date and find out that you make me feel something. Well, my body's reacting to how I feel. So, this is really more where that takes place than I would say the eighth house. The eighth house is how our lives are transformed into something different or bigger, but it is also the house of wounding. So just do keep that in mind. And you can see in this sense that our house of wounding is going to involve what? Jupiter, which is going to get what? Wounded again because she's not doing her job. And you can see that how she partners is really not something that's comfortable to the masses in some ways. It's kind of shocking. It's kind of assaultive and Martian-like. And it comes in and it tells us in the house of groups, which is our open enemies, no, you're not going to do that. Jack Smith, you did that wrong. And I mean, and it is shocking. I find myself shocked that he's going after Jack Smith as if he's some kind of dirty morsel of garbage that she's got to get out her poop bag and pick up his messes. And she finds him very annoying. And quite frankly, I think it might be the other way around. I'm thinking that he's picking up her messes. He's pooping on the floor and he's trying to clean it up because basically, in the meantime, there's something else happening here, which is frightening. And that is, he's saying that a person who has nothing to do with his convictions, nothing to do with his situation in court, that Biden is responsible for all things that ail Trump. And what came up was he said that the FBI, at the orders of Biden, came to his home to kill him and his family. And this is blatantly untrue. And in fact, it's dangerous because we have a good deal of uneducated people running around thinking they understand the law, the politics, the story, and they have alternative views of what that story is. And I can tell you I took criminal justice in college before I became massively interested in astrology. I thought I was going to become a doctor of jurisprudence, which is a lawyer, but I did not. And basically, what we have here is a lot of people thinking they understand the way the branches of government work, the three co-equal branches of government work. And what we're seeing is that not only is the three branches, co-equal branches of government not working, we've got people inappropriately favoring somebody who's not the president in ways that are historic and frightening. We have justices that are flying flags upside down and insurrection flags. And all I can say is I don't know what country I'm in at the moment. I feel like I've lost contact with what's real in some ways. So I'm bringing you this chart because I'm finding this level of personal deception people are experiencing. And then they're getting asked for money to fix his problems, which he created. And I'm telling you this because really in the truth of it, if you are somebody like me, I have issues with my children. I just do. I've always had issues with my children. I love my children. I have issues with them. They have issues with me. Why? Well, my chart says your Leo sun is in the house of wounding. You're very wounded, young lady. Then on top of it, my sun is opposite my uh, Aquarius, and my sun's conjunct Uranus. So it brings that right back into the play and squaring its own normal natal house. So all of this stuff, there's three different ways. It's saying, yeah, you have children, you're going to pay a price. And I did. And so, one of the things that I've kind of concluded since then is that my babies were premature. In every way, Spirit was saying to me, you really aren't somebody who should have children. You're really not that good at this. You might not want to do this. And I did it anyway. And so I just want to put this out there as an example of the truth behind the mechanics of our souls and our charts. I went against my own body. My body rejected being pregnant heavily. I was hospitalized like 27 different times. So I just want you to understand that our bodies, our souls, the energy around us tells us what's true. And we choose not to listen, then we have consequences. Okay. And that's no different for Donald J. Trump or Aileen Cannon than it is you and me. So let's not get somewhere thinking magic pie in the sky. And I'm sorry for you people who feel like believe your guy is a deity and can do no wrong. But I'm telling you, he's a billionaire. He's taking what little money you have. He's treating you like a fool. And he wouldn't have you to his home for dinner. He wouldn't allow you to use his bathroom if you were dying. Okay? So just stop it. You're fooling yourselves. And with this, please do like, share, and subscribe. Join me. Get a reading. They're powerful. They can be very helpful. And with that, thank you so much for joining me here today.